I'm here with Joe Bouchard, solo guitarist, vocalist, and a founding member of Blue Oyster Cult. He just released his latest solo album, Strange Legends, on July 31st. It's his sixth solo album in the last 11 years. Pretty good track record, I'd say, in the last 11 years, you know. Joe, I'm excited to talk to you at a point where your whole album's just been released, you know, to the music fans everywhere just about a week ago. And thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to me about it.
You're quite welcome. You're quite welcome. I'm really excited. The album is doing great. It's number 10 in Holland. I'm in the top 10 in Holland.
That is awesome. It's
Hit Tracks. It's called the Hit Tracks chart. Yeah.
You never know where your music's going to hit in today's world with all the internet. You never know where people are going to pick it up and like it, and you just never know.
Well, yeah, you keep putting it out there and, you know, keep your fingers crossed. But this is really cool because we started our own record label. My brother and I, who was also a founding member of Blue Oyster Cult, we started Rock Heart Records. And even in the middle of a pandemic, financial collapse, they gave us a record deal.
How about that, huh?
I'm stunned. I'm still stunned. So the promotion for this album has been like leagues better than, because in the other albums, the 5 other solo albums, I had to do everything myself, you know. So it helps to have some professionals that reach out to the journalists and podcasters, and you know, and everybody's been great. I think they really want to talk, you know. They're sort of let's get this thing happening. And the album is really kind of a very rockin' up album. So I think that's what people want to hear these days. So that's good.
Agreed.
Good timing, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. It's very power driven and fun to listen to, good music to listen to. And yeah, I think in the current times to get some
you know.
Yeah, I just think in current times to get the music out to people. Oh, you're frozen?
Oh. Yeah, just for a second.
Okay.
And it's good. I know when the pandemic started, everybody was like canceling their releases and everything. And I was worried, like, I don't know, you know, are people going to want to hear this, or, you know, do they want to hear Kumbaya or you know, praise the Lord and pass the ammunition. I don't know, but this album's doing very well. It's got some good rocking numbers. You know.
Well, I'm really happy to hear that.
I'm very happy with it.
When did you actually begin the recording process for this album? You know, how long did it take you to complete this album?
Well, about 2 years ago. I'm always recording something. So there's a sort of a backlog of ideas and riffs and, you know, unfinished things. And, but the first track on the album was the first song that I think that spoke to me, that said, this is going to be a great album. It's called African Queen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's based on an old Humphrey Bogart movie called The African Queen. And I don't know that much about old movies. I'm kind of behind compared to a lot of people, but we had time to watch movies. So we've been watching movies, and I saw that movie and I said, this is a perfect theme for a song. And I think when you find the theme that carries the song, that's going to, you know, it's going to be strong. So it's doing very well now. And, but that was an easy song. It just sort of wrote itself. It didn't take very long at all. And so once I had that song, I started pulling in some other things like, oh, this might go good with that one, and that would go good with that one. And so it ended up being a pretty painless process. Now, that being said, I'm self-produced.
Right.
And so everything, I have to make all my own decisions. I have a few people that I bounce off ideas with, but it's basically I'm in the driver's seat for the whole album. And so I recorded demos of everything, and then I did polished up the arrangements a little bit. So make sure the tempo is right and all of that. And a big difference on this album is that I got Mickey Curry to play drums. He is a fantastic drummer who plays with Bryan Adams most of the time, but he's also done Alice Cooper and the Cult Sonic Tempo album.
Right, big album.
And he was originally with Hall & Oates a long time ago. Great drummer, great sound. So I said, Mickey, and he just happens to live in the next town from me. So I met his brother. It's a long story. I met his brother at an open mic.
Okay.
His brother plays flute like Jethro Tull.
All right.
So we're jamming and having a good time at the local watering hole. And he says, you should get my brother, Mickey. And I said, Mickey Curry? Oh, he's your brother? And he said, yeah, I'll set it up. And next thing you know, I'm in the studio. Well, Mickey comes over. He listens to the song. He's listening to them, and I give him what did I do? I guess I emailed him some MP3s. He comes over, listens to the song. Yeah, I could do something with this. He was excited. So we went and we had 2 sessions. One was in, I think, January, and the next one was in July. And that's 2019, yeah.
Okay.
So we finished the second session in July, started really, then I said, wow, this is going to be a great album because we got the basic, structure. The basic structure was there. Then all you have to do, as I argue with myself over my production skills, is make sure that you put the excitement where it's supposed to be. And a lot of times I'll think back, to the producers that we had in Blue Oyster Cult.
Sure.
And they were great. They were great. Sandy Perlman, our manager, was our first producer. David Lucas, the guy who told us to put the cowbell on Reaper. He was great to work with.
Yeah.
Murray Krugman. And then later on, we worked with Tom Werman, who did Cheap Trick, some good records there. And then he did Motley Crue after that. And then we worked with Martin Birch. Martin, sadly, just passed away yesterday.
I did hear about that.
He wasn't that old. He was
72?
Martin, 71. He's my age. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I don't know. He worked hard for us.
Yeah.
And it was a good matchup because he did Burning for You.
Right.
The song that gets played all the time.
Yeah.
And Martin's personality is in that recording, I'll tell you. I mean, anyway, he's fun to work with. And so anyway, I'm producing myself, and I've been thinking about Martin a lot because I'm producing myself. And I said, well, what would Martin say? Is it good enough? Is it too good? Maybe you have to rough it up a little bit. He was kind of loose as a producer. He could say, oh, you guys figure it out. He wasn't one of those hands-on, uptight guys. Like, you got to do it this way. If you don't do it that way, you won't have a hit, blah, 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 blah. No, he didn't care. He just liked the good stuff. He liked the good hard rock because he did Deep Purple and he did, Rainbow. Rainbow is a great hard rock band. And then he did Whitesnake, and then he did Us, and then he did Black Sabbath, 2 great Black Sabbath records. And they didn't even need Ozzy. They had Ronnie Dio on those records. So he was a magical guy. What could I say?
That's quite a resume, huh?
And then he did then he did all the Iron Maiden records, more Iron Maiden records than anybody. Made their career. So I'm a little nostalgic about Martin. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So, like I say, what would Martin say?
Right. Well, I mean, you bring up a
And
really you bring up a really good point
yeah.
about how, you say you could overproduce a record. Someone could overproduce something to the point that it doesn't sound just natural, right? So that is a question that
Right.
comes up: is could you overproduce
It
it?
happens
Right.
all the time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love the
I
sound of
mean,
this record.
Martin would put us out in the studio. We'd be floundering. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, like I said, I was trying to get up to Martin's level, but it was hard. It was hard because he was such a natural. He was such a natural. Anyway, okay. Yeah. So I've been having fun for the last 10 years making my own records, and I've learned a lot. I don't try to put everything into every record. When I first started, of course, you've got all those ideas. Wow, let's do an acoustic record. No, let's do an electric record. Let's do synthesizers. Let's do new age music. You gotta just say, hey, what do you do best?
Right.
What do you do best? Well, I rocked like the 70s. Somebody did a review of my album, and I gotta say, it's like, oh, this guy has never heard anything in the last 40 years. No, I listen to everything. That's one of my problems. I listen to everything. So you got to make a decision. And with this record particularly, and the fans send me emails all the time, and they talk about the songs that I wrote. Some of them were good, some of them were okay, but they love them. They love them still. And I got to say, I really tried to do what I do best on this record. Let's not beat around the bush. I love playing the guitar, love playing the guitar parts. I did all the bass on this, the harmonies. I love harmonies, but I'm not going to do, a Beach Boys record, even though I'd like to.
No, you have to do what you do best, like you said.
Yeah, you got to do what you do best. And it's a little crazy. I really don't have anything to prove at this point in my life. It's just like, can I do this? Yeah, and make it believable. To make a record that's believable is tough. So I got a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
It's called your site is called Dr. Music.
Yes.
I wrote a song called Dr. Music.
Did you really?
It could be your theme.
We might have to look into that. Yeah, our
Tom
founders.
Mormon produced it.
Okay.
Yeah, look into that, Dr. Music.
Yeah.
Hey, as far as I'm concerned, you can use my theme song anytime.
That is very, very nice of you.
That was a fun song. That was I did that. Yeah, it's on the Mirrors album.
Okay.
Produced by Tom Mormon, who did Cheap Trick and Ted Nugent, and I thought I was doing this song, and I wanted to have Magic Dick from was a harmonica player in Jay Giles.
Right.
We toured with Jay Giles a lot, so I love Magic Dick. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
But we couldn't get him for some reason, so we got Mickey Rayfield, who plays harmonica with Willie Nelson. He, even though he does like sort of country harmonica, he could play the blues crazy. So there's this great harmonica solo on Dr. Music, and we had great background singers. It was a fun track. Anyway, so I noticed when I saw your website that Dr. Music, you need a theme song.
I love it. I love it. That's very gracious of you. I really appreciate that. So our founding, the doctor himself, Scott, Scott Itter, he is the founder of the website, and he will be so happy and thrilled to hear that. That's really nice of you. And it would be fun. That would be a lot of fun.
Just say I was looking over your Wow. I should do a remix for you. Special remix.
That would be just amazing. We got to talk. We got to talk more about that, Joe. That's really neat. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So did you, when you were putting together the record, naming a record, I know it ties in with your track, She's a Legend and everything, but thinking about, Strange Legends, do you spend a lot of time thinking about what you're going to name the whole
Strange.
thing?
Yeah. Usually it starts out as album number 6.
Okay.
And they say, that's a bad idea. It's listed as album number 6. And I don't know. I didn't really have I didn't have really that many great ideas until just about the end when I was putting the whole package together. And I said, Strangely in Love is one of my favorite songs, Strangely in Love. But I didn't really feel it was right because it's different. It wouldn't work. And then She's a Legend. Wow, that's a really strong song. I wonder, no, I can't call it She's a Legend, but how about Strange Legends?
Right.
And then you do a search, you do an internet search, because you don't want 500 other people that own albums called Strange Legends. And, it was kind of, it reminds me of sort of Stranger Things, and Stranger in a Strange Land. I mean, there's a lot of things that were close, but nobody had it. So that makes it even something that you want to use, You have to do that internet search before you choose a name, because there could be 500 and it's same thing, and then you get lost in the marketplace, especially with the internet.
Do you ever do that with song titles?
So that's how it came about.
Do you ever do that with song titles, Joe? Do you ever look up a song title after you've named a song and you say, "Oh, yeah"?
Often.
Because I mean, there's no rule.
Oh, this is the best, most original song in the world.
Yeah.
Well, in the old days, because I remember the old days, you paid a lawyer to do a title search, and it was thousands of dollars. I don't know what they did. They went to the New York Public Library, and So thank God for Google.
Yes.
Google and YouTube. Most every song that was ever written is on YouTube now, and it's free to search. So you do the search, and if you wrote a song that was just like somebody's, but the same title, but it was just totally different genre, maybe a country song or a hip hop song, you wouldn't worry about it that much. But if there were 50 rock songs with the same title, you'd have to be careful about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't want to end up in the wrong search bin or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think about that a lot when naming
Something
songs.
like
Being careful to not have that. It's not as drastic as, it's just with a song title. You're gonna be bound to, especially now that we can see it all on Google. We know there's gonna be 20 songs with maybe the same name or something. But like you said, genre is really important. If it's not the same genre, you don't worry so much about it. So,
Yeah.
So, if I understand correctly, the first single from the album was "Forget About Love," right? That was the first single that you kind of released out there, put out there.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little about that song?
And then the second single was "She's a Legend."
Right.
Oh, "Forget About Love."
Yeah.
It was written by my good friend John Elwood Cook, and it's actually the second time I recorded it. I recorded it in 2014, and it wasn't a single, but it was an album cut that everybody liked. Everybody liked that cut. It was really up tempo and lots of fun, and the song was especially spoke to me. I was going through a divorce at the time, and I was up at our family cottage, and my friend John lived in the next cottage over. So I'd go over to his place, and we'd have a jam on his porch. We'd jam on his porch. And I went over there about that time, and he said, "Come on over, I got a song for you." And he starts playing "Forget About Love," and I said, that is perfect. That's a perfect song for the way I feel. So
That's
I
great.
recorded it. And then John, after that, said, you should promote that song, but, and I guess I had so many other things going on at the same time. I was recording with another band, doing this, doing that. So I never got around to it. So finally this year, I decided I was going to re-record it because the original was with programmed drums. Now you can get pretty good drums out of your computer if you've done any
Yes.
computer recording.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You can get really good drums and get some great beats going. It's just crazy. It's so good. But there's not like having a real drummer because he can connect the cymbal. I mean, you had the best cymbal in the world. You had the best snare drum in the world. But there's something about that connection from the cymbal to the drum.
Yeah.
And it's human and you can feel it, So that's the difference with Forget About Love. It's a similar track, but it's got that human connection between the drums, the cymbal and the drum, and of course all the other working parts of the drum set, So the distributor really loved that song. It was a good choice as the first single, but there's other singles too. So
yes, you got She's a
Legend. Did really
yep.
well. Actually, it's the most popular video. Yeah, and I just put out The African Queen because because that's really popular. And my goal with this album, especially since I can't tour, touring days are, who knows when touring is going to come back. I'm ready when it does.
Right.
But so my goal was to do a video for every song on the album. And I just did 2 this weekend that I'm really happy with. And all of those, there's 4, so that's 6. So I've got about 5 more videos to go. And also not only you make like the official video, but you make the lyric video. It's always good to have a lyric video. People out there like to know what the lyrics of the songs are, and those are really cool too. I actually made the lyric videos back earlier in the year, but now you got to figure out, well, what's the concept? And so I draw storyboards, and I got a new camera. I set up a video studio, green screen, all of that stuff. I like the technical stuff, and it's a lot of fun,
It's exciting
not only recording and mixing my own record.
Yeah. It's exciting that we have the technology.
And the tools are there.
Yeah.
It was like.
Yeah. I watched the video for.
If your computer is halfway good.
Yeah. I watched the lyric video for Walk of Fame.
What song?
Walk of Fame.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a song that I had another lyric video, but I've been looking at sort of some of these strange videos where it's just a loop. It's a loop that, it's kind of, and then I said, well, don't make too much of the lyric, but just have this sort of ongoing loop. And that was really a big leap conceptually for that video. So thank you. Glad you watched it.
And I did watch the other videos too. I've seen all these. I've seen all these other videos too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you never know. You never know what people are going to pick up on. And so you just toss it out there and, fingers crossed. I mean, nothing is going to be like Gangnam Style. Nothing is going to go viral like, I remember like when viral videos were big, but there's too much manipulation behind the scenes. I mean, if you put a good YouTube video up on Facebook suppresses that because Facebook wants you to stay on Facebook. They don't want you to go and spend your time at the competitor, which is YouTube. So you have to work it all around and do this and share this and do that. Yeah, I'm big into the technical side of it all. It's fun.
Yeah, I could see
Yeah.
in the video.
I'm glad you mentioned that video.
Yeah, no, and I enjoyed all the videos you did. I could tell, I could tell it's a labor of love, and all self-production on that, and and even though the promotion of videos has changed a little bit, it's an amazing creative outlet, and like you said, you put it out there, and you hope that people will see it.
And it'll be there for years,
Yeah.
I mean, I have over 400 videos. It's crazy. All cover tunes and live recording. Not all of them are great, but you can usually figure that out pretty early on. And next video. But lately, I've upped the production values, and I'm enjoying myself deep in computer world.
There's so many young guitarists out there, aspiring guitarists and singers, and I do a little bit of teaching, and I've learned over time that there's more kids than I expected out there who are listening to classic rock music, going back, and because of the influence of their parents, that they're going back and listening to things. Have you been able to connect with any social media that the kids are really using to kind of get them to see, to hear a whole nother generation to hear your music, because they are going back and looking at this stuff?
Yeah, well, I can definitely relate. From 1987, I worked as a teacher in a private school, and then I started a private teaching business where it was nice because it wasn't full time. I could, pick and choose when I wanted to do it. But I've taught a lot of students over the years. And I also wrote some books. I wrote a guitar book and a couple of piano books and a bass book. I worked at a publishing company for 3.5 years. So I've been doing, I left Blue Oyster Cult in '86 because I was a little burnt out from people would call me up and say, "Hey, you're a big rock star. How can you leave that?" Well, how much, I did it for 16 years, and it was a fantastic run, but I had a family, and I wanted to do other things, play more guitar for one thing. And so I have a degree in music education, and now I have a master's degree in music too. So I thought for a while that maybe I would be a composer and do like classical music.
Yeah.
And that lasted for about, as long as I was in graduate school. That was a thing. That was a fantasy of mine, because I love classical music and Stravinsky and jazz, but really a lot of classical music. Chopin, Beethoven, all the classics. But one of my songs from Blue Oyster Cult got covered by Metallica, and that was like life-changing. That was like an earthquake. Like, forget about classical music. You got to be a songwriter, So they covered my song, a song that I co-wrote called Astronomy.
Right.
And they did very well. So the first thing I did was quit my day job. Just quit my day job. And but it also told me I should go back and really seriously be a songwriter. And I still use a lot of other writers that write for me. My friend John Cook, for instance. On this album, I started writing with John Shirley, who's a science fiction writer.
Yeah, and she's a legend, right?
Yeah.
She's a legend.
Yeah, she's a legend, and also Bottom of the Bottomless on this album. And he was great because he just sent me an email out of the blue. I guess he had heard one of my other solo albums, and he sent me and said, "I'm a fan." I like your stuff. So I emailed him the next day and I said, hey, John, send me some lyrics. He writes lyrics for Blue Oyster Cult, the current iteration of Blue Oyster Cult. He's
Right.
very good. He does his own albums. They're really crazy science fiction things, but very creative. So the next day I had She's a Legend in my inbox. And I'm saying, I can work with this. I can definitely make this happen. So, and he sent me a bunch of stuff. He just sent me a new one. And that may be on the next record. It's great. So it was great to work with John Shirley on this and, sort of dig in. And, I do a couple of different versions of the song. I may write it one way. I say, well, maybe it needs to be, completely different approach, or a different key, or a different tempo, or just a different beat, different feel. And, I'm just looking for that sort of creative spark, but he's a very good lyricist. And I hear that he will be doing more in the future.
That's fantastic. That's great. And it's a good partnership, as you can, your music and his lyrics, very good partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. Blue Oyster Cult was always known for that weird science fiction or horror movies or vampires, or, and at the time, maybe it wasn't so commercial, but lately, because of the strength of our catalog, our songs are just have a whole new life now. So, we're just completely grateful that when I joined the band in 1970, I was just out of college, and my brother had been in this band for 3 years. He met the guitar player Buck Dharma in college. He wasn't Buck Dharma then; he was Don Roser. So I was the college kid. I would go during my breaks from college, go down and live in their band house, and crazy with those guys, and we jam. And so when they asked me to join their band in 1970, it was a pretty easy fit.
Yeah.
But most of our songs just weren't that commercial back then. We weren't Billy Joel, we weren't Elton John, we weren't even Blood, Sweat and Tears or any of those other big groups, Journey. Yeah, our stuff was weird. And the miracle was, let's face it, it is a miracle. Donald Roser, also known as Buck Dharma, wrote this song called Don't Fear the Reaper. And what it had was a magical combination of the old science fiction weirdness, but it was a love song too at the same time. And it was, bam! I knew it was going to hit. I never thought we'd be talking about this 40 years later. Never. I thought, when I joined the band, I thought, well, it's good for, if we put out one album and we last for 3 years, that's a win. That's a win. So the way it looks now, it's like, I'm stunned, Anyway.
It's so awesome.
Good. It's all good.
Do you have a favorite album of all those albums that you guys put out during your time? Is there an album that's like your favorite of those, that the full album of the ones that you released that you were part of?
Well, the first album, a Blue Oyster Cult album.
Yes.
Yeah, the first Blue Oyster Cult album was the most exciting for me.
Okay.
That could have been our one album. That would have been our one album. 3 years gone, never heard from again. But I was so happy with that record.
Yeah.
Because we were struggling. We were a young, struggling band, and it was magical. Every day going to the studio, I just wanted to say, wow, this is so cool. I'm jumping up and down like a little kid, like, this is what I always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So the album comes out, 1972, and didn't have the excitement for some reason. When it was pressed on vinyl, just didn't, Then 20 years later, they press it on CD, and I listened to it. That's it. That's what I heard in the studio. So that when they moved it to a CD format and got some more level on the CD, it all of a sudden like, wow, this is the record I remember. So that I would say that's probably my favorite. Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, and She's as Beautiful as a Foot, and some of the tracks, Stairway to the Stars, Before the Kiss of Red Cap. They're all like weird songs, but to me have a lot of magic, And and then I'd say number 2 is probably Agents of Fortune, because it had the big hit on it. But also that is a really good, consistent album. We were using the Record Plant studio in New York City, where Jimi Hendrix recorded, where John Lennon recorded. We shared the studio with Aerosmith. We were doing Godzilla, and they were doing Walk This Way.
Yeah.
They did the afternoon shift. We did the night shift. We had to share the studio with them. So that was a magical place. And, it speaks for itself. It was our first platinum album. It still sells a lot of copies. The streaming numbers are insane. A lot of people from my era complain about streaming, but I can't, because it's been very good to the Blue Oyster Cult catalog. It's all good.
Yeah. A side question for you, about the recorded history of Blue Oyster Cult. In talking to some people, just different colleagues about the band and everything, I was asked if the Black and Blue concert, if you think it'll ever end up on DVD.
Oh, supposedly somebody in the other band, the Black band, doesn't want it out. They weren't happy with their performance or their production or whatever. Maybe they weren't. We had our manager, Sandy Perlman, managed both bands for that tour. And, I think we did great on that thing, but they don't want to put it out. So people have it. It's bootlegged from Brazil or somewhere. It's around. I wish that when Ronnie Dio died, there was a push that, it's time. Let's put out some bonus tracks. Let's get the DVD out with bonus tracks. It didn't happen. And to go and try to litigate the situation, it's just not worth it. So that was a fun tour. It was a big tour. That was the biggest tour of the year. That was like stadiums. Every other night was a stadium and giant arenas and sold out crowds, crazy crowds. We had riots. Milwaukee, we had a riot. Oh my God. Yeah, but it wasn't our fault.
Well, that's good. That's good.
We were the good boys on that.
Is there, you talk about that being a big tour. Are there any other tours that you could think of going back that it was like just really fun to be on the road with a band during the 70s where like you were treated as equals, everybody got along on the road, you had fun, and you were like, let's do it again kind of thing? Many.
The second tour we did was with Alice Cooper. And that was when Alice Cooper's audience was really young. Not like now. But back then, everybody in the audience was under the age of 18. So Alice comes out and he does this song, 18. And every kid in the audience wants to be 18. It was insane. So that was a tremendous tour for us.
Yeah.
We had never had reactions that great. But if you look back at the time, every teenager in the audience wanted to be 18, and Alice gave them that anthem. I'm 18 and I like it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So that was definitely up there, number one. We did a lot of other tours, but then in 1975, that was in 72. In 75, we got to tour with Rod Stewart and the Faces. And you wouldn't think, well, I don't know if that would be that good. You know, Rod's kind of a poppy singer, you know, but it was great. Big crowds, girls came. The place was packed with girls. We played Madison Square Garden. We played the LA Forum. We played everywhere. It was a beautiful tour. They liked us, so they gave us all the sound. Normally, when somebody opened for a big band, they wouldn't give them all the sound or the lights. They liked us, you know. So that was the last Rod Stewart and the Faces show in '75, and that sort of was the setup for what happened with Reaper in '76. And then we can go to some other, you know, we had great tours with Cheap Trick, and we had great tours with Kiss. That was a great tour. Nazareth and Kiss was a great tour. Rush, Aerosmith shows, a lot of Aerosmith shows. And then, you know, sort of even our later years in the it was just U.S. and Canada with Foghat. Foghat was a lot of fun. Every night was a great show with Foghat. So those are just some of them.
Yeah,
I went to Iraq in 2010 with this all-star USO show. Yeah, that was a thrill. That was like I mean, if I start picking out my favorite lot tours, we'd be here for a couple of days.
You know,
anyway,
is there
those are some of the highlights.
No, that's great. I mean, it sounds like you had a lot of fun out there. It sounds
it
sounds like you had a lot of fun with those bands, and it's so refreshing to hear that, you know, that you had so many good times with so many of these bands, that you guys just all coexist out there and enjoy the camaraderie and the music and the fans. Yeah. That's awesome. Is there any kind of a funny moment?
You know, a lot of those funny moment.
Well, I was thinking just like
one time.
Yeah.
One time they had to lock the dressing rooms for some reason. We were just about to go on, and I had to take a leak really bad. So I said, "Oh, but I can make it. I can make it through the show." So we're in Indianapolis, big, you know, 10,000 people in front of us. So, and then I finally said to my roadie, "I really gotta go this time. I can't wait." He says, "I got a bottle for you. When the lights go down, you just step behind the amp, and I got this bottle." So here I am with the bottle, and I'm filling it up, and I can't stop, and the lights come up.
Oh no!
Woo! Don't lock the dressing room before we go on. You know that. Anyway.
Oh gosh.
My roadie, he'll never forget that one. Those things happen, you know. Luckily,
yeah.
You know, nothing too tragic. Just taking a pee in front of 10,000 people.
Oh, you know, I wanted to talk a little bit about your guitar playing.
I don't think I've ever told that story.
No, well, thanks for sharing it with us. You know, you started playing. You started by playing guitar, and then you switched over to bass, right? I mean, you were mainly playing, you know, lead guitar, and then you switched over.
Going back, yeah.
Was that difficult? The transition?
Well, I've always liked me. No, because when I was in college, I played guitar, and it's one of those situations where I didn't have a band for a while, and you know, I went to a club on a weekend and I saw a band that was fantastic. They were just great. So Monday morning, I'm back in my music theory class, and I'm sitting next to the bass player of that fantastic band.
Oh,
I
yeah.
said, Sam, I really loved your band. Man, that was so good. He said, I didn't. I'm quitting. Yeah. Opportunity knocks.
Yeah.
So Sam is leaving the band. So I went to the leader of that really great, it was kind of a Latin jazz band. It wasn't hard rock at all, but they would just knock me out with the way they played, and it was just so well done. So I went to the leader of the band and said, hey, you need a bass player. I can play bass. Of course, I never played bass before. But I could play guitar, and it's just the 4 strings on the guitar, the lower 4 strings.
Yeah.
So the guy, Steve, the leader of this band, said, no, well, I got a guy. So nothing happened. A week later, I go back and say, so what's going on with your band? Well, the other guy doesn't want to do it. You want to play? I said, yeah. So he actually lent me money for a bass. I had borrowed a bass, but you know, I had my first bass was lent by the leader of this band, and so for 2 years we did all kinds of college gigs and fraternity parties and whatnot, you know, mafia parties, jazz gigs, you know, clubs. We were always busy. We made good money. So for 2 years, I studied, you know, basically all these forms of popular bass styles, and we got really good at it, you know. So that gave me a little bit of an edge when it came to joining Blue Oyster Cult, because I don't think they wanted somebody who didn't have any experience. So yeah, so I learned a lot in those first 2. My junior and senior year in college, I played bass, and but I always loved the guitar. Going back to my earliest days, my uncle Bill played guitar. He was kind of like Les Paul, and he had some nice Gibson guitars. And then he bought a Jazzmaster in 1960, the first year a Jazzmaster came out. I was like, wow! And he let us use his guitars. So my high school band and all of that, we had some nice guitars, courtesy of my uncle.
Yeah.
You know, and we all had one amp. We'd all plug 4 guys into one amp. But it was all good, you know. And I studied a little classical guitar in college, and you know, wanted to get back into it. So the bass playing was kind of like out of necessity, you know. You wanted to be in that band so bad that I'd play tambourine or cowbell. I'd play cowbell in the band if it was the greatest band in the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, there's something about playing bass. Mostly I've done guitar in the last 30 years, but when I pick up the bass, I feel like at home. I feel it's more relaxing, less pressure. You know, you're the lead guitar player. You got pressure on you. You know, everybody's staring at you. But the bass, it's just like getting into the groove. If you could work with the drummer, and I knew how my brother played, so I think that, you know, having grown up with him, I knew it's like quirkiness, and we just, you know, really locked as much as we could on those Blue Oyster Cult records. You know, it was a good run. And like I say, I pick up the bass now, and it feels like home. It's just like, oh, this is so relaxing. You know, it's a good thing. Yeah, I love it. But I love guitars too, and I've learned how to record guitars, and that's part of the secret of this album too.
Well,
great drumming, and really cool guitar sounds, and know how to, using the standard Marshall box, and also other devices too. So.
well,
Yeah,
I really like the instrumental track. I really like Racing Through the Desert. I really love that track. Did you set out to create an instrumental for the album, or does sometimes happen where you say, okay, I'm not going to write lyrics for this one. This one is just going to be instrumental. How does that happen?
Yeah, I wanted to do an instrumental, and everyone, yeah, just just kind of as a fluke. I usually have an instrumental on every one of my solo albums. And
Okay.
that's where I usually get to stretch out and do something that would be totally crazy. Like I did a bluegrass song once. I did some like Pink Floyd space rock. I did, new age meditation music. But this one, it just came together, and I didn't spend much time on it. It was that's the video I just finished.
Oh, cool.
Let's see. Well, you want to see my new video?
Yes,
Can I share the screen? Oh, I
absolutely.
can't do it.
No?
All right. It'll be out. It'll be out in a week or so. You got to look it up. It's really came out great.
Now, did I hear some trumpet on there?
Yeah. So, yes,
That the trumpet right back there? Yeah.
This is actually a flugelhorn, but it's on
Okay.
it too.
Okay.
I was always like the worst trumpet player in my high school. I was the worst. I was down to they make you sit on the end, fourth chair. You're the fourth chair guy. And but for the last 2 or 3 years, I've got retired from my teaching thing, and I've had time to learn how to play this thing.
Yeah.
And so I started actually practicing, and it was amazing how good you could be if you actually practice. And it's a very demanding, because you got to use the wind and the lip and all the demands, the hard instruments to play. You can pick up a guitar and get a sound right away.
Yeah.
You can't pick up this and get a sound right away. You got to really warm up, do the whole routine. So I actually somebody gave me a trumpet somewhere along the line, and so I started playing that, and that was maybe 7-8 years ago. And then I decided I was going to buy a cornet, so I bought this antique cornet. It's really nice, and started playing the cornet. Then I got a trumpet. I'm not allowed to buy any more guitars. I've reached my guitar limit. You have a fishing limit. When you go fishing, there's a limit how many you can take out of the water. Well, I've taken too many guitars out of the water. So, but I still got room for brass, and so I bought a cornet. I just bought a cornet that was played in the E Street Band.
Oh, wow.
From Ram. Yeah, Kurt Ram. Kurt Ram played in the E Street Band, and he decided to get a new cornet. And a cornet is a little smaller than a trumpet, but it has an interesting thing about it. And so I really enjoy that. So I have 2 cornets, I have a trumpet. This is the flugelhorn, which is a little bigger.
Yeah.
And I ended up putting them on the instrumental because it just seemed like a good thing to do. And there's trumpets on She's a Legend, but they're really mixed in the background. I have a whole orchestra. So you can program the orchestra with samples and stuff,
Right.
a baritone saxophone and, some other things. And then when you put a real trumpet in with the sample thing, it all of a sudden starts to sound very real. So that's exciting. And Then my brother asked me to do a couple of solos on his new album, which will be out in the fall, which will be the second album on our label, our Rock Heart Records label.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. So I'm actually finding uses for my little hobby here, brass, which is my hobby these days. You know, it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
When I went to school for music education, like you did, you know, I thought it was really daunting to have to learn all the instruments. You know, everything. You know, I'm a clarinet player.
You take 8 weeks. Oh, well, I took 8 weeks of clarinet. I took 8 weeks of trombone. I enjoyed the trombone. Clarinet, I wasn't very good at. So you're a clarinet player. That's great.
Yeah.
I love the clarinet. You know, when it's played right, it's fantastic. It really is fantastic. You know, and you know, Benny Goodman, one of the best.
Yeah.
You know, historic. You know, you can do it all. It's kind of like you know, the trumpet player does it all.
Yeah.
So my mind is. Yeah, I mean, but I appreciate great clarinet.
Yeah, I always
Where did
felt,
you go to college? If I might
well,
ask?
I'm based out of Chicago, you know, so I went to Northern Illinois University here outside of Chicago, and music education, you know, and so it's I remember, you know, I don't think I've ever held the tuba. I can't tell you how heavy a tuba is. You know, we learned the brass at once, like you said, 8 weeks on this, 8 weeks on that. I can't tell you how heavy a tuba is. I've never touched a tuba, you know. You know, but we learned on French horn and trumpet, you know. so yeah, it's,
yeah. I was a part of that too. So I don't know. Maybe you know they want you. What I was really a piano major.
I saw that. Yeah.
Back when I went to school, you couldn't. Yeah, you couldn't be a guitar major. It wasn't a proper instrument in any school. I mean, maybe in North Texas State or Berkeley, but even then it was not a real proper instrument. So so I ended up, you know, studying piano, and that puts you into mostly like, well, you're going to be a singing teacher if you're a piano major. You know, you get a job in the high school as a singing teacher, but that wasn't for me either. So
yeah,
but it was good. I mean, I still use the piano a lot. There's always piano on my songs and recording. It's good for understanding harmony and all of that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went to Ithaca College, a really good music school, and then I got my master's from University of Hartford, the Hart School, HARTT school.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A good school too. That was an incredible experience because, you know, I've been a songwriter for many years, but by studying music composition, so that serious, when I was in that serious mode, concert music, professional concert music, and it was fun to actually write music that didn't have to be in a song format.
Right.
I mean, you've probably wrote a few songs, you know, and you know, with song, you think, well, it's got to work with the singer and the voice and, you know, all of these things but when you're just writing music for music, it can be anything. It can be explosions, you know, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
I started doing electronic music too. That was in the 90s when sound designer was a thing. And I've got boxes and boxes of tapes in the thing, my electronic compositions. But I also did string quartets brass quintets and oboe and piano, and I did a ballet for a full orchestra. That was
Wow.
my master's thesis.
Wow.
Yeah, I did a ballet. It was about 40 minutes long, and I had a dance company lined up, but it just never came together. We tried to get a government grant. It's a long story.
Yeah.
We tried to get a government grant to have this ballet produced because that, but I was a big Stravinsky fan. So, hey, if he can do Rite of Spring, I can do my Rite of Spring.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go write a song. Just write a song.
Now, we were talking about music education and instruments and and piano. Yeah. Yeah.
Piano, being a piano major, because you couldn't be a guitar major. And I mean, now every school has a guitar major, pretty much. If you want to study guitar, they got a place in the class for you,
Yeah.
But then again, most guitar players don't read music. It makes it impossible to do anything. But it's good. And I worked, like I said, I worked in a publishing company, learned how to, work, write books, and wrote a very popular guitar book, still get royalties. It's been out for 20 years. Came out in the 90s and still see royalties on that. Piano book's good too. I was part of a whole series of rock piano.
Okay. Yeah.
And tricks and stuff. You want to be a rock piano player. So that was like a 3-volume set, and that's still in print and doing pretty well. I mean, there's a limit to how much the sort of advanced books sell. But if you write a beginner book, those are the books that really sell, because everybody at least wants to get, their foot in the door. Whether they will follow up with the advanced method, probably not. But so anyway, I learned all about that part of the, thing. But I got tired of staring at a computer all day. I mean, it was a 40-hour-a-week job and 50 weeks a year. No summer vacation. So,
well,
all good. I love my rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said about creative people, like, that it's hard to, like you said, you were in the band for so many years and then you want to do something a little bit different. I feel the same way in my life, that I've done a lot of different things, all in music. Thank goodness for that, all music things. And I like the variety. Every day is different for me. I love the variety. A little bit of teaching, a little bit of playing, composing. I worked at a record label for a while. I worked for Warner for a while. I mean, different things. Theaters I work in. I love the variety of the spice of life in music,
Yeah.
So
I agree. Why not,
Yeah.
Unless you're a Buddhist and you come around again, do it again.
So is there anybody, all these years you've worked with so many different people, is there anybody that you would really always wanted to collaborate with, like on your music right now, like in any genre, really? I mean, you have so many genres you've written in. Is there anybody out there right now that you're like, man, I want to pick up the phone or get connected with some publicist, somebody to get us connected to work with somebody? Is there anybody like that out there right now that you'd really like to write with? Or
I don't know. It seems like there were more back then. I'm pretty happy being independent guy. I probably would like to find more music collaborators in writing. But who? I don't know. I wouldn't even know, Would I love to write a song with Paul McCartney? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, Kanye and Rihanna had to do that.
Yeah.
They did it.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't know. That's a good question, but I don't have a real good answer. I'd say, all right, maybe Brian Wilson.
Oh,
I
yes.
I love to I would just love to spend maybe an hour with Brian Wilson and like, okay, tell me about harmonies. Tell me about harmonies. And he hears these things in his head, in his
Yeah.
symphony in his head.
Yeah.
I'm well right now. What I'm doing, I use I'm usually up early in the morning, and I usually dream of a lot of stuff. Maybe not. I can't say that I've had a fully formed song come to me in a dream, but certainly the corners and the edges and you know, and the idea for the bridges that comes in a dream.
yeah.
But you gotta be, sensitive to it, and you gotta write it down before you forget.
Absolutely.
Always nowadays you got this thing, you just hit voice memo, and I got some good voice memo ideas on here. No, I'd like to spend maybe an hour with Brian Wilson, find out what he thinks about harmonies and where they come from. He's definitely got the magic.
He
had it.
For a while, he lived right here. Like I
Yeah.
said, I'm outside of Chicago. He lived right here in St. Charles, Illinois, for about 2 or 3 years, and I always kept
He
hoping
was
that
in
I would
Chicago.
run into him. But I did meet him once, but not for much conversation. Just to be, just my dad is a big fan of the Beach Boys, and I am too, of course. I mean, but my father, and I got to take him back to meet Brian Wilson one time, and that was that was a really cool thing. But to pick his brain for an hour, for 10 minutes would be amazing. That would be amazing. So I can appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I remember. I got to tell you my best Brian Wilson story. I've been trying to meet him for years. It's never happening, and people pull strings. It just hasn't happened. But he put out an album of Gershwin.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I thought it was really, really cool album. Really, really, really cool album. So he was in New York City in a small theater, very small theater, and the show was incredible. And I mean, he did a few of his hits. You got to do some hits, but the show was just incredible. Singing Summertime. He's singing Summertime, and the whole audience just goes, they just gasp. Like, Brian Wilson is singing Summertime.
Yeah.
Old classic.
Sure.
And lots of other good ones. And the whole band just was fantastic that night. So I'm leaving the thing, and I was just so excited. This is fantastic. So Brian Wilson's bus is out there. And I figured I'd knock on the window and say hi to the bus driver. So I knocks on the window. It's Brian Wilson.
Oh, gee.
And he's on the phone. And I waved. They said, "Great show." And he waved back. I died and going to heaven. That's all I need ever. He waved. Well, I'll tell you, I think he was in a great mood because the show came off. The show came off without a hitch.
Yeah.
And here he is, 20 minutes from Broadway, doing Gershwin, and it was a fantastic show. So he was telling somebody back at home how well the show was, and he was in a good mood because he's not in a good mood a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he waved to me, and I said, "Great show." That's all I need to say. Just off into the night, gone out to the night.
That's kind of how I felt.
Great show. It was a great.
I kind of felt the same way when I met him. I just wanted him to acknowledge my existence on this earth. That's all I really needed that day. I just needed him to acknowledge my existence as another human on this earth, and talk to him for a brief moment. Nothing musical, unfortunately, just a hello. But that was enough for me. It really was. It really was.
Yeah, a brief hello, that's all. I
Yeah.
mean, he's not gonna be chatty or anything like that,
Right.
you know.
Right.
He's
Right.
he's 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 got his thing, and we are blessed. I've met all the other Beach Boys. I've
Have
met
you?
them all. They're very nice, you know. But yeah. Mike Love, talked to him several times. We actually, Blue Oyster Cult opened the show for the Beach Boys.
Oh.
Another crazy moment on the road.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's this festival in Cincinnati. We're at this festival in Cincinnati, right on the river, and it's the Beach Boys and Jan and Dean, and Blue Oyster Cult opening. Weird show, but we were excited. This is so good, you know.
Yeah.
And we're in the dressing room, so we're just warming up, getting ready to go out. You know, we gotta get limbered up. And I said, well, let's play fun. So we're playing fun. Mike Love opens the door. What are you guys doing? And then, like, whoa, Mike Love, wow, came into our dressing room. But then he took off. He had other things to do.
Yeah.
And then, maybe 5 minutes later, Jan Berry of Jan and Dean comes into the dressing room. And I said, Jan, let's sing a song. So we're singing Barbara Ann.
Oh,
I said,
boy.
you know this song? We're all singing Barbara Ann with Jan Berry of Jan and Dean. It was insane. So later on, we're out at the soundboard because we had the good passes. We're out at the soundboard, and Beach Boys show was not that exciting, you know. It was okay, but it wasn't, you know. I've seen them 40 times, but Jan and Dean come out to sing with the Beach Boys, and all of a sudden it just like, whoa, it was awesome. They were excited because they had guests, and they were on their best. They wanted to do their best with Jan and Dean, so they're doing the Little Old Lady from Pasadena, Surf City. They're doing all of those songs, and also it was a great sound. This is quite a few years ago, so they had one of the first digital reverbs, so they could get that big California sound.
Right.
It was just, you know, nowadays that you can put a reverb in it like that big, you know, but this was like a big box that had just reverb. It was just for reverb. And I remember that, wow, they did sound good. You know, they go into that big California sound, you know.
Right.
Yeah. That, you know, that goes back to my earliest days of playing music, and, you know, why I ended up deciding on a music career because of those guys, you know. And I went to see Smile 3 times when they did the Smile, live Smile, when they did and they did Pet Sounds. I saw that 3 times. Wow. I saw their big reunion show in 2012, I believe. Saw that like 3 times. You know, and I would just go because nobody would want to go with me. Only the crazy fan. Nobody want to go. I'll go by myself. I'll buy a ticket by myself.
Yeah. You can't.
Know,
you can't miss that. You can't miss that show. Yeah.
And then if you go by yourself, you do crazy things. Like, I found a seat in the front row, even though my ticket was for the back. I would just go up there, and I would sneak in, like when I'm just like a kid, a real kid. I sneak into the front row. Is there anybody sitting there? No, I think they left. Good. And I hide down so the ushers don't see me. So I got to watch a lot of those shows from the front row. You know, 10 feet from Brian's piano. All right, enough of that. I'm losing all my heavy metal cred by talking about this stuff.
Well, I know on the new album you got the Kinks cover too, All Day and All the Night. You've got that cover, so they must have been someone that you really enjoyed over the years.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The earliest days, playing those power chords, bar chords,
Yeah.
So tired of waiting. But of course, You Really Got Me was, a life-changing song, kind of invented the heavier side of rock and roll, was Ray Davies.
Yeah.
And then he would come out with some incredible ballads too.
Yeah.
He could make you cry
Yeah.
with the songs that he did. So yeah, I started All Day and All of the Night as an acoustic song. So it has this sort of open E minor tuning. And then as it developed, it got heavier and heavier, But I thought that was good to sort of start with just a soft acoustic guitar, talking about all day and all of the night, and then
Yeah.
bam, bam, and it explodes, and that was fun to produce.
Yeah.
A beautiful tribute to my earliest days as a teenager playing rock and roll. Yeah.
Have you ever thought about using any of your music for maybe you already have, but for like a movie, for TV shows, all of your instrumental music, or even your vocals, using it because that's just another way to, in today's time, to get your music out there to another generation of people, is like through, not where they take your lyric and they make it be for toothpaste or something, but like your instrumental music.
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for that call. It's tough playing the Hollywood thing though. We did that with Blue Oyster Cult, and we never were very good at it, And they may. I can't say that. Reaper has been in 75 movies, television shows, video games. When you get a hit, people they all want it for all kinds of things. We were in the trailer for a couple of movies. There was a movie just last year that they paid us incredible amount of money just for the trailer.
Yeah.
On a movie. So that may happen. I think if I lived in Hollywood and did this stuff from there, but I'm living here in Connecticut, and you got to kind of it's kind of like the rock business. It's a small, basically, you got to know people.
Yeah.
You got to play those relationships. It's all can be licensed very reasonably.
Well, I just
be licensed very reasonably.
I just think about like the fact that you've got all this music, I'm talking about your solo music now, your current compositions and all that you've written. And, back in the 70s and 80s and, even the 90s, we didn't have the internet where we could communicate with people, but I think people are not as protected as they used to be, or protective even, that you can maybe reach, and you have a name for yourself as a solo artist, as a band member of but to be able to just tell them who you are and say, hey, I've got this music. And, do you have, because there's so many music, I've learned about this, so many music libraries in California, and to be able to communicate with somebody and just pitch it and see what they say. I mean, because you got so much music you've written.
Actually, I did a little bit of that in the 90s. Not very much, It may happen because of this new record label that we started.
Yeah.
And also we have a manager too. So he's done a great job on my record. He's getting ready to do my brother's record. We're going to do, we have a couple other projects that we'll be doing in 2021. And we have thought about like repackaging our solo records. He has several, and I have 5, and they may come out as the best of the Bouchard brothers or something like that. And there may be other connections to, it's pretty competitive, that film market, but I'm very optimistic that things are going to happen. More things are going to happen.
Well, and there's so
I mean, the
many.
idea with this record label was to point up the creativity that we have.
Yeah, yeah.
And now with you know, Netflix and Amazon competing, there's just you know, and I think that the sort of Hollywood system has been shaken up a lot by what's happening now with you know, the explosion in streaming TV and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll happen.
I think there's a lot more opportunity because of it. And I think there's, you know, it doesn't have to be a network show. It could be, I mean, there, like you said, there's so many streaming channels. And from
Yeah.
from a little bit, I dabble in that, and I'm trying to break into that part of things in life. But from what I hear, there's like some of these music libraries thought they'd be slow right now because there's a lot of production that's on hold, but they said they're getting hit so much for music. And I just think of all the music you've done, you know, gosh, to get that out there to them, and it'd be a whole nother side part of your music, you know, right now, because this is the time. This is when the iron's hot. And I just thought, wow, that would be another way for them to hear your great music.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll definitely look into that, you know. Yeah. Or if you know anybody, hit me up. Hit me up with a private message.
Well, yeah, I talk to you just a brief moment when we're done here. I just tell you a couple of quick things, you know, for sure. And by the way, I want to be respectful of your time. You've given me so much time this morning. So I kind of want to wrap things up about your new album, and then maybe we can just chat for a quick minute offline here. But, you know, knowing that this is your 6th solo album,
sure.
What's the next album after that of your solo albums that you're most proud of, that you know, all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into it? What's the next one that someone would go back and listen to that you're most proud of your solo records?
Well, playing the fifth one is called Playing History. I really love the songs on that. That's really a strong one. I mean, people like them for different reasons, I think. The older an album gets, it develops a history. So then you get, you know, they listen to your record because it reminds them a happy time or whatever. It takes on a history of its own. So, and selling a new album is tough because, you know, they say, well, I don't know if you could top that one that you did, but Playing History is really good. I felt very creative for that, with that, came up with some songs, really strong songs. I wrote a song for our manager who passed away called Renaissance Man. And up until this album, that was I think, the strongest post Blue Oyster Cult song that I ever wrote was a song. And it had a good, that's a concept too.
Yeah.
Andy was a brilliant guy, and, you know, to come up with some kind of story that told a little bit about him from my perspective was a really good song to write. So,
and yeah. I just ran
Playing
across
history.
I ran across the lyric
really
video
sort of
for that too.
Along around with my history.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. So just you know, summarizing kind of everything we kind of talked about today too. What do you want to tell people to make them excited to go and listen to this new album? What you know, if what hasn't been said really? I mean, you've told us so much about, which is great. Is there anything just to kind of, what would you tell them? You know, and maybe someone who is not familiar with your music too, someone that just loves rock and roll music. What would you tell them to you know, about this new record that they got to listen to it?
Well, this is a great set of songs. It's going to make you feel good. More going to get you up off your chair, make you dance. Walk of Fame.
Yeah.
Most dance track I've ever done.
Yeah.
I think this is a fun album for me. I'm sure in the future I will look back and that was a lot of fun to do that record. So
yeah,
and it rocks good. It's a tight. All the corners are really tight. Just had a great time doing it, and I expect that my next record, I might maybe do some more far out stuff, but I can't wait to start that one, and that'll be starting soon.
Great. Well, I hope that all of you who are watching this interview, that you'll check out Strange Legends. Joe, I thank you so much for your time today. I mean, you've been so generous with your time, and we worked through the technology stuff with Zoom, and we got through that.
Talking to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, hurricanes, we got it all here.
There you go.
We just laugh it off.
Well, thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah.